Right, I think that is now going. Okay, welcome everyone to this presentation on Greener Pocklington and community action, a community action group. So we started last year in May 2019, and we're a community group. The aim is to do projects, practical projects for the environment generally. In and around Pocklington. We've defined our area of operation as 10 miles around Pocklington, 10 miles around the town hall to be precise. The slide says over 100 members. In fact, at my last count, it was over 120, probably 500 plus on our Facebook, and quite a lot of ongoing projects. So the idea of this presentation is not just to say, look, this is what we've done, but also to show you how we've done it and to explain really how anyone can do it. So I'm now trying to move on to my next slide. Okay, that's not working really well, so let's try pulling that down. Sorry about this, but that's what happens when you're live. Let's see if this works. Right, so the presentation that I'm giving tonight, I go through the aims of how we organise ourselves, how we dealt with finance, the projects we've done, the way we have and how we would start a group. So look at our aims. When we set up, so first of all, we were a community group, and that we would have two major aims, almost climate change. The other was to combat species decline, which largely is related to habitat loss. And we would do this by running projects that involve the community, councils, schools, businesses, local clubs, people, individuals. The other decision we took was to avoid politics and campaigns. And the reason for this is because we want to be a group that does things. Many people in our groups might have one sort of politics, they might have another. The moment you start discussing that, people perhaps become upset, become fractures, take sides, you don't achieve anything. As far as campaigns are concerned, there are a lot of very good ways to get involved in environmental campaigns, and very often they run nationally. There are groups such as Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, some of us, and so on. And people can get involved and should get involved in that if they want to. But what we're trying to do is fill in a gap, because if you can imagine environmental action, there's the government doing and international organizations doing things. There are councils, there are individuals trying to do stuff in their garden and in their lives and so on. And there are organizations like Greenpeace, World Wide Fund for Nature and so on. But there's a big opportunity for communities to do things. So how are we organized? The first thing is we have regular meetings, and those meetings are every 2 months. They're minuted, and the minutes are put on our Facebook page. They're public meetings that people can come along to. We had a gap because of COVID, but we've restarted those meetings with Zoom now. The second thing is we have a committee that meets, and again we meet by Zoom, and we have certain roles. So we're a bit like a WI, really. We have a chair, which is me. We have someone who handles finance. We should have someone who handles the secretarial work. We have someone who looks after Facebook, and then we have members on the committee. Then additionally to that, we all have subgroups, and those subgroups depend entirely on what people are interested in and what people are prepared to put time into. So the most active subgroup is the tree group, followed, I would say, by the litter picking group. And I have to say that was not an activity that I had envisaged when I started this, but people are keen on it and it draws people in and they get involved in other activities. There is a wildlife garden group, which is more of a communication group. We had a lady who's starting a community garden, but unfortunately that's put on hold because of COVID. How do we organize finance? Well, we started off with nothing. I just organized a meeting in the local town hall. And if I was starting it now, I'd organize a meeting via Zoom. We avoid all expenditure that's not directly related to our activities. So we did get a grant from Pocklington Town Council after a few months, whereby they would pay the meeting for our meeting room. Our methods of communication are free. So we use Gmail and Google Storage. We use Facebook a great deal. Everything we do, we advertise on Facebook, we get people to share it, and we share it in all the local groups. We share it on for sale groups, we share it on community groups, and then we come back and we reshare. We find that it's one of the most effective ways of getting people's attention. And just because you've done it once doesn't mean they've seen it. So you have to keep at it. You have to keep Facebooking, and it works very well. But we moderate our Facebook page quite strictly. And that is because we don't want it to be a page where people just post any old environmental news from any part of the world or any campaign they're interested in. What we want to use our Facebook page for is to promote what we're doing and to get people involved. Now, if something could possibly be relevant, then we will allow it. But there are a lot of posts we turn down. So if someone posts something about wildflowers in Barnsley, for example, we'll allow it because we could say, well, we could do that here. But if they post something about polar bears, then we won't allow it because there's nothing we in Pocklington can do in our local community about polar bears. And that's the sort of test we do. If it's to do with politics or party politics, then it goes straight out the window. One of the schemes we've got that's been particularly successful is the garden trees scheme. I think last year we gave out over 320 trees in our area. This year I'm over 250 at the moment trees ordered. We buy them. I will explain the scheme in some detail, but basically we make a profit on it. So if we have 250 trees, we'll probably make 250 or £300. And we use that to buy trees or for other activities such as making nest boxes or whatever it is we're doing. Generally, if you want to plant trees, nowadays you can get those trees for free. There are reasons to buy them. And those reasons are often if you need them in a hurry, or you need a certain mix, or you need flexibility in what you do. So we do buy trees. So we have no overheads. We literally have no overheads. There are times when we do things that require procedure and insurance. For instance, we put up nest boxes in Primrose Wood. Now, the way we do that, we litter pick, but the way we do that is we link with other organisations. So the litter picking is done in conjunction with Pocklington Town Council under their insurance. Oh, I'm sorry if the sound went funny. I missed that. 7:15. Oh, we're probably all right now. When we need to do put up nest boxes, then we involve another organisation, in fact, the Rotary Club, and we do it under their insurance. Okay, so some example projects. So these are some of the projects we've done. We've done tree planting in schools, the community, and clubs. So we've been involved with 3 schools with tree planting. With the Rotary Club, we've planted trees in Primrose Wood, a local wood, and put up nest boxes there. We've had some trees put up at the Scout place, at the Scout hut. We've got agreements with the football club and cricket clubs to put up trees on their sites. There's a batch of nest boxes which went up in Primrose Wood. There's 20 there. I've got another 12 we've made, which the parochial parish council is putting up, is getting put up in the churchyard, and in fact, the town council are putting them up for us. Again, insurance, etc. We've got a community garden planned. There is a great new project. A new enthusiastic young member has joined us on the committee, and we're doing surveys of birds in and around Pocklington on certain corridors, which we feel will enhance wildlife and connect up habitats. So our plan is to survey, see what's there, and then approach landowners to see what planting we can do to provide green corridors. The garden tree scheme, which I'll go through. Wildflowers, we haven't really got too far with, but we've done that through individual members planting wildflowers. And we are liaising with the town council for planting in streets. And by this, we mean people planting flowers around lampposts instead of the council coming and spraying the weeds, or what they consider to be weeds. People planting around street signs. We had a competition organised for this year being run by the town council, but unfortunately that had to be postponed. So let's talk about the garden tree scheme, because if you wanted to start something in your area, a garden tree scheme is a good one. The reason it's good is, first of all, you can make some money on it and get some funds. Secondly, the thing you'll find when you come to plant trees, your problem is not getting trees, it's getting places to put them. And the gardens in our towns and in our suburbs are an underused resource for wildlife. They need more trees, they need more flowers, they need connecting up for hedgehogs, they need more ponds. And people will respond if you say, we are getting these trees, we're getting them very cheaply, you can come and plant one, and they've been specially selected for your garden. So last year it was 320. We did it in 2 batches. This year we're up to 250 so far, but we're doing it very differently this year as a socially distanced collection. So it is more difficult, whereas last year we went out and actually planted them. for quite a few people. So this is how we go about it. First of all, we choose our tree varieties. And the Woodland Trust have a tree pack designed for gardens, which includes things like rowan, elder, field maple, sweet cherry, and something else. And these 5 trees are suitable for most gardens. So those were our 5 trees. Then we source and price the saplings. And to give you a clue, if you go to a tree merchant, you can probably get them for £1.50 each if you're up into the hundreds of trees. You set a date and collection point, then you produce a poster and you advertise, advertise, and advertise. You collect your orders by email, track the orders with a spreadsheet, and then have a collection weekend. Now, one reason why we buy our trees from the tree merchant rather than having a Woodland Trust tree pack is because we need flexibility. We may need 70 rowans, 20 crab apples, 30 field maples, so many cherry, so many silver birch. That was the other one. And if you get a standard tree pack, you don't have that flexibility in what you get or necessarily when it comes. Whereas I can go to the tree merchants and say, we're doing it next weekend. Can I come along and pick up 200 trees? And they'll say, yes, here's your money and away you go. So that's how we do it. So here is an example of the poster we produce. It says, Green at Pocklington Garden Tree Weekend. Have you room for a small tree in your garden, perhaps on your lawn or in your border? So we are choosing these wonderful trees that are all suitable for your garden. All you have to do is email us, and on this year we're selling them for £2.50 each to cover our costs and help our environmental work. Email us today. That's what happens. And then that thing is published on our Facebook page, and then it gets shared like mad on every group we can think of and shared again. We send it out to our email lists. We have an article written for the local press. That poster goes up in all the shops around the town. We can get the radio to talk about it. We use the free papers, and the orders come in. When someone emails us, there's a standard piece of text, a reply they get. Here you are. Thank you for contacting us about this year's garden tree scheme. The idea is very simple. Many trees are suitable for gardens, etc., etc. So it tells them what trees they can get: rowan, crabapple, field maple, wild cherry, silver birch, telling them which are suitable for smaller gardens, that they can keep them under control, but they mustn't plant them near their houses, etc., etc. Please let us know what you want. And all I do when I get the email from someone is copy and paste this text into the reply and add them into. At that stage, I don't even add them into the spreadsheet. They get added to the contacts, Google contacts, and they get marked tree pending. Now, what that means is that towards the end, if I've got 20 people who are tree pending, I can send them the same email as a BCC and say, hey, you are interested in trees. Are you still interested? And I can chase them up as a group. When they reply, they get moved to a tree ordered list, a tree ordered label. So I can equally send an email to all the people who've tree ordered. And all I'm collecting is their name, email, and phone this year, and then the column for the trees and the number they've ordered. And then I use total columns so I can see how many. So I took this a few weeks ago and a week or so ago and changed the names and emails to protect the innocent. When we come to the weekend, we've arranged to do it in a local public space. Um, we are One of our members has kindly produced how to plant your bare root tree little thing for us, instruction, and we'll send that out as a PDF to everyone. There'll be a socially distanced collection, and we'll try and get their money off them before they collect their tree. But there will be a bucket for cash. We won't be giving change. We don't. We're going to go for minimum handling and social interaction on this one. Here's some more projects. One of our members has been very keen on approaching schools. Last season, we went in to Pocklington Junior School. Derek Utley from the Woodland Trust was with us, and he also went to that school and gave them a very much appreciated talk on trees in the assembly. Here are all the kids planting their trees. This year we've got something going with the infant school, and we've got an arrangement with Pocklington School whereby we've been helping them plant up a site of theirs. So these are over this 1 year, these are the sort of links we've built up by this process of constantly advertising and by having regular publicised meetings. We have links with the Pocklington Town Council, who would give us a meeting room if we were using one, have helped us with the community wood planting. They have helped us by as part of putting up the nest boxes, which we've made. It's their litter picking equipment and insurance we use for litter picking. And we came to this arrangement for a street planting competition with them, which we've had to shelve for a year. The Rotary Club have been involved in the community wood, and again, it was their insurance and their man who went up and put up the nest boxes. They are currently working on a community pond project, and the split of work will be they will do the groundwork and make the pond, but we will help by getting plants for the pond and help on the wildlife side. Later on, when we can organise groups to do wood maintenance um, in that wood, then we'll do it. This is a community wood that already exists in Pocklington. Derek from the Woodland Trust has helped us a great deal with the garden tree scheme and has gone around and planted many trees on our behalf. We've been approaching different clubs. We've had positive responses from the cricket club, who have a border area they would like us to plant, and also from the football club as it happens, but that's still in the planning. We've done some planting with the scouts. So the schools I've listed there. Pocklington School actually made some nest boxes, both bird boxes and bat boxes for us, which went up into the woods. We've linked up with hay swifts for swift nesting boxes, and what we have done is publicised what they do. And as a result of that, they've come into Pocklington and installed a number of swift nest boxes simply because we've used our publicity channels to explain to people what they do. And um, some people have bought the boxes and put them up. We've approached the parochial church council and they've given us permission to put up um, boxes, bird nest boxes in the churchyard. And they've also given permission to the town council to change the planting regime in the churchyard to be more wildlife friendly. Our contacts with the East Riding of York Council are through their local nature partnership, and that allows us access to talk to planning people about putting up trees in streets and so on. So how would you start a community group, whatever that community group was for? It might be that you want to link up gardens and have bee corridors. It might be you want hedgehog corridors. It might be you want an umbrella group like ours that has all sorts of projects. Um, The first thing is you have to start with a public meeting with some sort of agenda. And nowadays that would be a Zoom meeting. And you set your aims. And the important thing is to gather the names of people who are interested, their interests, specific interests, and their email addresses, and get them on your list. You need to find a few people who are prepared to be on a committee. Now, once you have a committee, you create a constitution, and you're quite welcome to pinch ours and amend it. Why do you need a constitution? Because if you open a bank account, you need a constitution. We opened a bank account with HSBC, and that was really, they don't charge us for it, but that was really their main requirement, that we have a constitution with a committee and a number of defined roles on it. You need publicity. I had set up the Greener Pocklington idea and the Greener Pock email before I called the inaugural meeting. But then we have a Facebook page with a couple of moderators. And out of all this comes interest groups. Certain people will be interested in certain things. People have approached us about starting a community garden, and they've joined our group and are using our group to publicize that and to create a community garden. On hold now because of COVID, but nevertheless, it will go forward. It is the same with the corridors, it's the same with the Swifts. As you grow, people who are interested and people who are prepared to put time in will join you, and you can grow a group. The main thing is to have a cycle of communication, a cycle of talking, a cycle of meetings, whereby people come along, they talk, then they go away and act. If you want to start a group, I suggest the garden tree scheme is a good way because it will engage people. People nowadays are relating to trees, and a lot of people would put a tree in their garden if only they thought of it. And then they might not put it in because they've got to go and choose and buy a tree. But if you hand it to them on a plate and say, look, we've chosen these trees, all you have to do is decide which one or ones. We'll give you planting details. You can come along on this weekend and pick it up. And by the way, it's cheap. We're at the moment discussing when we're going to do this now, because it was originally going to be in November. But I think we can do it up to the end of February. We'll probably do it in January, but we shall see. We're discussing it. But the point is, even this season, there is time to start this and do this if you want to. So the thing I guess I want to say in the end is that a community action group, can achieve significantly more than an individual can. Secondly, you don't know where you're going till you start going there, because what will happen is people will come and join you, people who have ideas and people who have skills. The next thing is you will benefit from a defined organization. Don't leave it woolly. Have definite meetings on definite dates, have them minuted, have roles that people have. Someone is in charge of the money, someone is in charge of organizing the meetings, someone else does publicity. Meet regularly, discuss what you're doing, have defined actions, follow them through. You will find as you go along that you pick up help. You will develop links with other organizations, you'll develop links with councils, with the local lions, etc., etc. It will happen. You don't actually need money to start. What you actually need are a few committed people. That's it. And all the time, advertise, draw in more people, tell people what you're doing, involve people. If you need any help or support in doing this, or want to use any of our facilities, things we've done, um, our constitution, etc., etc., we're more than willing to help you. Now, what I have to do now is find a way to turn off this sharing. Right, stop share. I think I've got it. And we'll start. I'm going to ask you all to unmute. So if you could wish to take part, you don't have to unmute, but I will ask you to unmute. And really, I'd like to know if anyone's. I hope the presentation worked well. It was the machine didn't behave as I had practiced it. Every time I've done it, it's been different. But that's technology. That's what we live with at the moment. So can I ask if anyone would like to ask any questions?
When you were presenting, you made me think about, because I never heard about your organization before. So well done for having collected so many people in just a short time, and even with the pandemic going on. When you were talking about what you're doing, you also remind me of Edible York, because it's always thinking about making where we are a bit greener, and finding places where to plant. So
I think it's very important that we, as environmentalists, as I'm sure we all are, that we understand that one of the biggest resources we actually have that is not used as well as it could be are people's gardens. And there's a lot of area that's in towns or suburbs where with a little bit of thought and effort, we could do a lot more. And people just need, they need the lead, but sometimes they need to have it made easy for them. So the garden tree scheme is a fine example of that. We're giving it to them on a plate. And last year, it was even more. We were going around planting trees for people who didn't know how to plant trees. And Derek was involved in that. And there was a group of us. And I was quite amazed at some of the people I planted trees for. Yes, Caroline.
I was going to say that I think the garden scheme is a really good one, which the council in York did about 40 years ago. They just advertised and said, anyone want a free tree? And I took one for our house, and it's still growing strong. But, you know, the reason why it's brilliant is it's actually really quite hard to plant trees in public land because of the, as we discovered, you know, services are absolutely everywhere. You've got to have the survey first to make sure there's nothing underneath, and then you find there is. So you've got to change your plans, and then you've got to have another survey done because you've got to change your plans.
Well, that was exactly the reason we have targeted organizations that own land. So we have deliberately tried to make contact with all the schools in Pocklington, and we're going to widen that out in the 10-mile radius around us. But also we approach sports facilities that have land, because although they may not want trees down their cricket pitches, they're quite happy quite often to have them around the edge. And these form wildlife corridors as well. But as far as what you're saying is concerned, the East Riding of York Council have said that they will help us by looking at individual proposals. So I hope to move into a situation to I'll just answer that in a second. Something's come up on the note. What we're going to do is we're going to invite people to ask for a tree in their street, because what you have to have first of all is consent from all the people near the tree. It's no good if someone wants to cut it down because it obscures their view. But then you have to say, okay, here's a bit of grass by the side of the road. All the neighbours are happy, so that has to come from them. Then you go to the East Riding Council and say, we want to put a tree there. Is it okay? They look at that and then we'll give you the go ahead or not. And that's the model we're trying to build. But we haven't got that far. We've put in our first application for 2 trees in Garth's End in Pocklington. And at the moment, that's been a bit delayed by everything that's going on. But the plan is to move forward with that. Derek.
Just a couple of things on that. First of all, just details that the Woodland Trust are having a campaign now at approaching farmers on the basis that there is a lot of spare land, wasted land. With Brexit, the regulations will be different. There'll be a whole new scenario, and the government is pressing farmers to go much more environmentally friendly on the basis that A, it's better for us, and also it's economically viable. That's the first thing. So that's on the news at the moment. And the other thing is there is a local council which has taken on board a Woodland Trust scheme for giving away free 45 trees to any local council that approves it for where they've got sites. So it's 2 new things which are opening up the availability of trees and the ease for getting and finding room for them.
Great, yeah. I've got a couple of questions I want to take from the chat. I think it's Louise. Have you had long enough to see how the flower planting and not having them zapped with the herbicide by the council is going? Right. The answer to that is the garden planting, the street planting competition didn't happen this year because of lockdown. But we got agreement from the town council who said they would approach East Riding Council and tell them not to zap designated areas with pesticides. But I can tell you there are a lot of informal street plantings in Pocklington, and the people who come around spraying don't spray them. So there are a lot of very impressive flower beds around street signs, lampposts and telegraph poles in Pocklington already. And the men who come around spraying don't do it, don't spray those areas. So yes, it does work. Now, as far as planting trees on pavements, we weren't actually planning that. In Pocklington, in suburbs, we have a lot of grass verges by the side of the road, and it was them we were targeting rather than making holes in pavements. To be honest, that's a lot of work for 1 tree, and you've got to somehow you've got to focus your attempts on what will give you good value for the effort you've actually got. It's no use attempting something that's an extreme amount of work or money if you're not going to get much out of it. So I think those have answered the questions that have come up on the notes.
Yes, certainly, Simon. One thing for me, your group is very much organised around particular projects. So you didn't have a group with a grand title or anything. It's just the tree planting group. Do you see these groups only having a finite life, or? No,
the thing is about groups within Greener Pocklington. It all what you actually do in a group like ours depends on who is interested in what and who is prepared to put the time and effort in to lead it. So when Ruth Hodgson, the mayoress, came along and said, I want to run a litter picking group, we had a litter picking group. I started the tree group.
Yeah.
Judy came along and said, I want to do a community garden, and so on and so forth. But the tree group has a cycle of meetings, and we just basically look for new victims all the time. Where can we plant trees? That's the plan. You know, we'll just keep meeting. We're not going to run out of places. Within a 10-mile radius of Pocklington, there are an awful lot of places trees could go.
Yeah.
And there are an awful lot of sites that won't have services. There are fields, there are footpaths. You know, there's a lot of scope there. We're not going to run out anytime soon.
I know. So you very much, you found the champion first, and then that determined the group you were going to have, or the groups you were going to have.
When I did the initial presentation, I suggested certain groups. So I suggested a wildflower group. I suggested a tree group. I suggested a car sharing group and various other things. I thought of about a dozen things. The things that actually have traction are the tree group more than anything. But the litter picking group came out of the blue, and I hadn't even thought about community gardens. But these things have sort of appeared because people have come along, and the green corridors is our big new project, and that's more of it's based on the science really that we've come up within that. Ashley has analysed the green spaces around Pocklington and said, look, there are these gaps and we need these wildlife corridors between these blocks of vegetation. So we are surveying them, and then we're going to see what is practical to put around them. But the whole point of this whole thing is that because we have an organisation and a cycle of meetings and a cycle of communication, we draw people in who will do these things. And if you sit back and wait for people to come to you, it won't happen. What you have to do is get out there and publicize, and then when that doesn't work, publicize again and keep going. And it is by doing that you will one day draw in someone who you really hadn't expected, who's a real star. In fact, I think I may even have found someone to be our new secretary. So, you know, it's it just happens. It builds.
Have faith. Have faith. No, brilliant. Great. Thank you.
And keep going and keep organized, you know.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's a very good idea you say about people can opt in, so propose the creation of a group like the U3A, where all the groups are created by the members themselves. That guarantees a certain enthusiasm and commitment. And it all carries through also in the fact that any work that you do, that person will probably lead and be responsible for, instead of having everybody jumping in about corridors or about verges or whatever, any particular subject. Everybody talks about it, they all go away and nothing happens. That's what happened a lot in Tremendous. And we're trying to say now that if anybody has a subject that they like, they take it and they stick with it. And you don't spend a whole, if the project's going well, you say, it's going fine, don't worry. If it's not, you refer to your friends and you bring them in. But it saves a lot of time and it makes it much more efficient and it's much more enjoyable doing it.
The problem is that the problem you have to avoid, the trap, is becoming a discussion group. Everyone has all the answers to all the world's problems, you know, especially as you get older. You'll know that yourself, Derek. But what we have to do to make a group successful is to focus on goals and actions, and to make them happen. It's no use having a long heated discussion about whether it's better to plant native wildflowers or nectar rich flowers. It's no use. The point is we need to plant some flowers, and if we can have batches of native flowers planted, that's better, that's great. But it's not a topic for religious disputes, you know. And this was really the one of the reasons why we've sort of banned politics and campaigns and so on, because in the end, all we want to do as a community is to do things in our area that make a real difference. Because the thing is, we can look back over this last year and we can see where we've been. We can see the trees, we can see the nest boxes, we can see the things we've done, and we can see the things that are happening this year. It's concrete, it's real, and you know, it's growing. And that might be the best we can hope for.
Take another point just to raise very quickly about what you say about publicity. I always think about projects, it's a bit like trees. You put them in for future generations. So if you have a successful project like the garden scheme, I think it's very important to make it as, and you do this extremely well, to publicize it all over the place. And that will more or less guarantee that future generations will be able to inherit the scheme and develop it and carry on producing good work. So I think publicizing what you do, often people are a bit modest, say we can't, you know, no, we don't want to sound very too enthusiastic or self-satisfied, but it's a way of investing your skill into future generations.
Yeah. Right. I had a boss who once said to me, if you don't ask, you don't get. And that, I'm afraid, is it. Right. Are there any other questions or points before that people want to go through before we close off?
Will you send your presentation, maybe with all the contact details?
Yes, certainly. What I can do is I can email it to the list. I believe I can do that, of attendees, but also you can, I believe that the presentation and this video will be put up onto York Environment Week, although it's going to be quite a funny video as I struggled to get everything going, but that will happen. So I will email it to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, very useful. Good.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Oh, thank you. Well done, really, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See if I can stop recording. Right. Bye, folks.